India has a rich history and is one of the world's greatest and oldest civilizations, witnessing the fall and rise of different dynasties. One of these dynasties, which forms a significant part of our Indian history, is the Nanda Dynasty. This first non-Kshatriya dynasty ruled Magadha in eastern India between 345 to 322 BCE. Introduction of the dynasty. The Nanda dynasty was the third ruling dynasty of Magadha in the eastern and northern India and some parts of central India during the 4th century BCE. The Nandas overthrew the Sheshanaga dynasty, the previous ruling dynasty of Magadha in eastern India, and expanded the empire to include a larger part of northern and central India. Origins of the first Nanda ruler. The Jain, Buddhist and Puranic sources differ on the origin of the first Nanda king, Mahapadma Nanda. We also get some information about the Nandas from Greek and Roman sources, like Arrian, the historians of Alexander of Macedon. According to a Jain scripture, Parishistha Purvana, the Nandas were non-Kshatriyas and had a very humble origin. The first Nanda ruler Mahapadma Nanda is said to be a son of a barber and courtesan. But, according to one other Jain scripture, Abhisayaka Sutra, he was, Napadadasa, that is an employee under a barber or a slave of a barber. The Buddhist sources however though talks about the low social origin of the Nandas says that the Nandas did not come to power either by any connivance or by killing any ruler but it was an open struggle with the last rulers. The Buddhist tradition calls the Nandas, of unknown lineage, Anathakula. According to Mahavamsa, the dynasty's founder was Ugrasena, who was originally a man of the frontier. He fell into the hands of a gang of robbers, and later became their leader. He later ousted the sons of the Sheshanaga king Kalashoka, or Kakavarna. If we look at Harshaksharita by Banabhata which was written in the 7th century CE, we find that it talks about the low social status of the Nandas and it is said that Mahapadma Nanda came to power after killing Kakavarna or Kalashoka the second king of the Sheshanaga dynasty. According to Greek historian Diodorus, 1st century BCE, Porus told Alexander that the contemporary Nanda king was thought to be the son of a barber. Roman historian Curtius, 1st century CE, adds that according to Porus, this barber became the former queen's paramour thanks to his attractive looks, treacherously assassinated the then king, usurped the supreme authority by pretending to act as a guardian for the then princes, and later killed the princes. The Jain records corroborates the Greco-Roman accounts, stating that the first Nanda king was the son of a barber. The Puranas named the dynasty's founder as Mahapadma Nanda, and claim that he was the son of the Sheshanaga king Mahanandan. However, even these texts hint at the low birth of the Nandas, when they state that Mahapadma Nanda's mother belonged to the Shudra class, the lowest of the Varnas. Since the claim of the barber ancestry of the dynasty's founder is attested by two different traditions, Greco-Roman and Jain, it appears to be more reliable than the Puranic claim of Sheshanaga ancestry. The Nandas built on the successes of their Haryanka and Sheshanaga predecessors, and instituted a more centralized administration. Period of the Nanda rule. There is little unanimity among the ancient sources regarding the total duration of the Nanda reign or their regnal period. For example, the Matsya Purana assigns 88 years to the rule of the first Nanda king alone, while some manuscripts of the Vayu Purana state the total duration of the Nanda rule as 40 years. The 16th century Buddhist scholar Taranatha assigns 29 years to the Nanda rule. It is difficult to assign precise date for the Nanda and other early dynasties of Magadha. Modern historians date the Nanda rule from 344 to 322 BCE, relying on the Sri Lankan Buddhist tradition which states that the Nandas ruled for 22 years. Some other historians dates the Nanda rule from 345 BCE to 324 BCE, based on the assumption that Gautama Buddha died in 486 BCE. Buddhist story talks about 22 years of the Nanda rule which is quite plausible. The first ruler that is Mahapadma Nanda occupied the throne around 344 BCE considering the fact that Chandragupta Maurya ascended the throne around 322 BCE so from 344 to 322 BCE, we have the Nanda rule in Magadha. There are variations in stories between the Jain tradition, the Buddhist tradition and of course the Puranic tradition. The Puranic tradition talks about 9 Nanda the rulers. This is also supported by the Jain and Buddhist traditions. But, according to the Puranas, Mahapadma Nanda was the father of other rulers, while other texts narrate all of them were brothers. So therefore this kind of confusion remains when we have very little data regarding a certain dynasty. In the Puranas, Mahapadma Nanda is also referred to as Ekarath, meaning sole ruler because of the vast territory he has conquered and ruled. The Buddhist, Jain, and Puranic traditions all state that there were 9 Nanda kings, but the sources differ considerably on the names of these kings. According to the Greco-Roman accounts, the Nanda rule spanned 2 generations. For example, the Roman historian Curtius, 1st century CE, suggests that the dynasty's founder was a barber-turned-king, and that his son was the dynasty's last king, who was overthrown by Chandragupta Maurya. The Puranas state that the Nandas ruled for 2 generations. The Puranas further state that Mahapadma Nanda's 8 sons ruled in succession after him for a total of 12 years, but name only one of these sons, Sukalpa. According to the Buddhist text Mahavamsa, written in Pali language, there were 9 Nanda kings. They were brothers who ruled in succession, for a total of 22 years. These 9 kings were Ugrasena, Panduka, Pandagati, Buddhapala, Rashtrapala, Gavashanaka, Dashasiddhaka, Kaivarta, Dana. Nanda's imperial extent. The Nanda capital was located at Pataliputra, near present-day Patna, in the Magadha region of eastern India. This is confirmed by the Buddhist and Jain traditions. The Puranas also connect the Nandas to the Sheshanaga dynasty, which ruled in the Magadha region. According to the later writer Megasthenes, 300 BCE, Pataliputra, or Palabothra in Greek language, was located in the country of the Prasii, which further confirms that Pataliputra was the Nanda capital. The Nanda Empire appears to have stretched from present-day Punjab in the west to Odisha in the east. An analysis of various historical sources, including the ancient Greek accounts, the Puranas, and the Hathigumpha inscription, suggests that the Nandas controlled eastern India, the Ganges Valley, and at least a part of Kalinga. It is also suggested that they controlled the Avanti region in central India, which made it possible for their successor Chandragupta Maurya to conquer present-day Gujarat western India. The Puranas state that the Nanda king Mahapadma Nanda destroyed the Kshatriyas, and attained undisputed sovereignty. The Kshatriyas said to have been exterminated by him include Maithalas, Kashiyas, Ikshvakus, Panchalas, Shurasenas, Kurus, Haihayas, Vidihotras, Kalinga, and Ashmakas. Alexander the Great invaded northwestern India at the time of Agramas or Zandrames, whom modern historians generally identify as the last Nanda king, Dana Nanda. In the summer of 326 BCE, Alexander's army reached the Beas River or Hyphasis in Greek language, beyond which the Nanda territory was located. According to Curtius, Alexander learned that Agramas had 200,000 infantry, 20,000 cavalry, 3,000 elephants, and 2,000 four-horse chariots. Diodorus gives the number of elephants as 4,000. Plutarch inflates these numbers significantly, except the infantry. According to him, the Nanda force included 200,000 infantry, 80,000 cavalry, 6,000 elephants, and 8,000 chariots. It may be possible that the numbers reported to Alexander had been exaggerated to mislead him. However, the Nanda army did not have the opportunity to face Alexander, whose soldiers mutinied at the Beas River, refusing to go any further in the east, forcing Alexander to withdraw from India. Little information survives on the Nanda administration today. The Puranas suggests that the Nanda Empire was an integrated monarchy rather than a group of virtually independent feudal states. However, the Greek accounts suggest the presence of a more federated system of governance. For example, Arrian mentions that the land beyond the Bias River was governed by the aristocracy, who exercised their authority with justice and moderation. The Greek accounts mention the Gangaridai and the Prasiai separately, although suggesting that these two were ruled by a common sovereign. Modern historians theorizes that the Nandas held centralized control over their core territories like Kosala, Mithila, Kashi and Kalinga, but allowed considerable autonomy in the frontier parts of their empire. This is suggested by Buddhist legends, which state Chandragupta was unable to defeat the Nandas when he attacked their capital but was successful against them when he gradually conquered the frontier regions of their empire. The consolidation of power by the Nanda dynasty depends upon a very important factor that they know how to extract resources and handling of revenue matters. Several historical sources refer to the great wealth of the Nandas. According to the Mahavamsa, the last Nanda king, Dana Nanda was a treasure hoarder, and amassed wealth worth 80 kodis, 800 million. He buried these treasures in the bed of the Ganges River. He acquired further wealth by levying taxes on all sorts of objects, including skins, gums, trees, and precious gemstones. The Kashika, a commentary on Panini's grammar, mentions Nandopakramani Manani, a measuring standard introduced by the Nandas. This may be a reference to their introduction of a new currency system and punch-marked coins, which may have been responsible for much of their wealth. A hoard of coins found at the site of ancient Pataliputra probably belongs to the Nanda period. The Nanda kings have strengthened the Magadha kingdom ruled by their Haryanka and Sheshanaga predecessors, creating the first great empire of northern India in the process. Historians have put forward various theories to explain the political success of these dynasties of Magadha. Pataliputra, the capital of Magadha, was naturally protected because of its location at the junction of the Ganga and the Sun rivers. The Ganga and its tributaries connected the kingdom with important trade routes. It had fertile soil and access to lumber and elephants of the adjacent areas. Magadha had huge reserves of iron ore mines that played a major role in its imperial expansion. According to the Jain tradition, Kalpaka was the minister of the first Nanda king. He became a minister reluctantly, but after assuming the office, he encouraged the king to adopt an aggressive expansionist policy. The Jain texts suggest that the ministerial offices of the Nanda Empire were hereditary. For example, after the death of Shakatala, a minister of the last Nanda king, his position was offered to his son Shulabhadra. When Shulabhadra refused the offer, Shakatala's second son Shriyaka was appointed as the minister. According to Brihatkatha tradition, notable grammarians such as Varsha, Upavarsha, Panini, Katyayana, Vararuchi, and Vayati lived during the Nanda period. Religion, under Nanda rule. The Nanda Empire's population included adherents of Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. The Nandas and the Mauryas appear to have patronized the religions originating in the greater Magadha region, namely Jainism, Ajivikism, and Buddhism. However, the rulers of the empire never engaged in conversion of their subjects to other religions. 18, and there is no evidence that these rulers discriminated against any contemporary religion. Decline of the Nanda dynasty. All historical accounts agree that the last Nanda king was unpopular among his subjects. According to Diodorus, Porus told Alexander that the contemporary Nanda king was a man of worthless character, and was not respected by his subjects as he was greedy and oppressive. Curtius also states that according to Porus, the Nanda king was despised by his subjects. The Puranas label the Nandas as adharmika, indicating that they did not follow the norms of dharma or righteous conduct. The Nanda dynasty was overthrown by Chandragupta Maurya, who was supported by his mentor, and later minister, Chanakya. The Buddhist text Milinda Panha mentions a war between the Nanda general Bhadrashala and Chandragupta. According to the text, this war led to the slaughter of 10,000 elephants, 100,000 horses, 5,000 charioteers, and 1 billion foot soldiers. While this is obviously an exaggeration, it suggests that the overthrow of the Nanda dynasty was a violent affair. Despite its eventual demise, the Nanda dynasty left a lasting impact on Indian history. The empire's administrative practices, land reforms, and military strategies influenced subsequent dynasties and laid the foundation for centralized governance in ancient India. The Nanda dynasty's cultural patronage and encouragement of intellectual pursuits also shaped the artistic and philosophical landscape of the Indian subcontinent. In the next video we will learn about Maurya dynasty, which created the largest empire in the Indian subcontinent. Stay tuned for the next video.